Hi, welcome to the Authentically You podcast. I'm Dr. Julie Ducharme, and this is a podcast where we get to interview people around the world about the authentic things they're doing. I love this because I get to meet new people, make new friends, and get educated on something new. And so today I'm really excited actually to have one of our She Talkers here, Alejandra. I'm just going to read her bio here. She has amazing things going on. She's also known as the Baller Coach. And so she has over 20 years of experience in coaching, training, and development. She's considered one of the pioneers of the coaching industry, and she has worked with over 2,000 coaching clients, trained over 3,000 coaches, guided entrepreneurs to scale into multi six-figure and seven-figure businesses, and has built a multi-million-dollar coffee business, which is delicious, by the way. I've had their coffee with her husband, Eric, spanning Southern California. Known for her engaging and compelling style, she has taken practical business expertise and married it to energetic spiritual science, giving her clients the modern day magic that gets results without the BS. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Oh my gosh, I love, and I was mentioning you were one of our She Talkers, and I loved your story. And of course, your coffee is amazing. I love the story of how your husband ended up doing that. And of course, we met for coffee. And then I think I spilled coffee on myself because it was so
You did.
delicious. Like I was eating your
You were
what I
wearing
don't
it.
I left wearing it, and like I was eating one of your pastries, and I don't even know what it was, but it was like the best thing I'd ever had. Like it was melting in my mouth, and I was just like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, this is so
Well,
good."
this is the banana nut muffin, which we make everything from scratch. So yeah.
It's so good. Oh my gosh. So I didn't mention all the can you mention the coffee locations so we don't forget about this, where people can find it in Southern California?
Yeah. So we have one in Little Italy of San Diego. All of them are in San Diego. So Little Italy. Then we have one in Solana Beach. There's two in Encinitas, one in La Costa, and one in Carlsbad.
Gosh, we
So
just gotta get you guys in Coronado now.
I know.
So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
so
It's
well,
coming.
it's amazing. Lofty Coffee is amazing, and I hope you guys check it out. I'm all about supporting our small businesses. Of course, it doesn't sound like you guys are small. It sounds like you're getting very big. But I love the story, and I love just, what you guys are doing. And so I know a little bit of your story, but not all of our listeners do, of how you got into coaching, how this evolved. So I would love for you to share with everyone a
Mm,
bit of your journey.
Thank you. Yeah, so I grew up in a household where Spanish was actually my first language. And there's these certain slang terms that you really just can't translate into English. And there was this one that my mother used to say all the time, and just bless my mom. She's just a beautiful woman, but she would say this slang term without thinking about how I might interpret it. And when I went to school, I didn't know English. So I was pretty young, having to go through this translation state of translating English to Spanish, Spanish to English. And so there was this one significant day where I remember running home. I wanted to show her like a picture that I had drawn. And I swung open the door. And the moment I got into the house, she said this slang term, which was estúpida cabra de mi chica. And if you were to translate it, it translates loosely into stupid piece of shit. And it was such a those defining moments where like you're never the same again.
Yeah.
Like I knew I was never going to be the same again at that point, because I had not only like internalized it as though she was talking to me, but I started thinking about all the times I had heard that phrase throughout my childhood, and that all those times she was talking to me. And it really just led to this truly feeling stupid and worthless. I didn't learn to read until I was 12 years old. I was like deathly afraid of speaking publicly or being any kind of leader, because I thought if I ever did, people would know how stupid I was, or, not good enough kind of thing. And so it really like evolved in my adult age into just some severe insecurities and lack of confidence. And I was constantly facing block after block after block,
Mm.
because I also at the same time had this calling, this draw to like do something grand and big, but I just continually stopped myself because of all of that upbringing and what I thought about myself and viewed myself as. And then it wasn't until my very early 20s that I actually got introduced to life coaching. So I've been a coach for over 20 years. So getting into life coaching back then, like nobody knew what life coaching was. It was definitely like a God moment. I didn't know it at that point, but it was definitely a God moment and another one of those turning points. And I was so intrigued by what this life coaching thing was and how was it different than therapy and counseling. And it was through this company, and I was talking to this lady who was like, "Hey, we're looking for a life coach. Are you interested?" And I was like, "Wait, what is life coaching?" And no, I'm a mess. I don't know what you're asking right now. Um, but through that whole conversation, it was really about the thing that was the sticker for me was you're going to get to go through this life coaching program as your training. I was already business consulting at the time, so it also felt like a natural progression. And I had just had my daughter, and I was in this place of I wanted to get rid of that baggage.
Yeah.
Not just for myself, but really my daughter triggered a lot of that. Like, I didn't want her to experience
Mhm.
what I had throughout my life.
Yeah.
It was so intriguing that it was like, you know what? Traditional therapy isn't working. I don't want to do medication. Sure. What's this life coaching? Let's do it.
I that's it's funny. I like that you mentioned, okay, you said, "I'm a mess. How can I be a life coach?" Right? And I have another friend who's a, organizational psychologist, and she always says, like, "Yeah, we go into it because, like, we need it the most as well." And it's so interesting that, it attracted you to, and of course, you're amazing now and you're killing it. But something that a couple things you said I wanted to point out. One, that feeling of inadequacy,
Yeah.
and how that stuck with you, that resonates with me because I had someone say that to me, someone who wasn't even a family member, but it was so powerful and it stuck with me, and it was someone that didn't even care about me, but I held on to that like you did and felt that baggage, and then when I had my daughter, it was an epiphany moment of like, I don't want her to feel like this. I can't behave like this because if I
Right.
behave like this, she's gonna take it with her. I mean, even to the point of not saying things like, "I feel fat today,"
Mhm.
because I didn't want her to think that she was fat, and so I really had this kind of moment of like, "Julie, you gotta get your act together. Like, you got a daughter, and you don't want your daughter to feel like that." So as you're saying this, I'm just like, "Yes," like, it's resonating with me because it's like,
Yeah.
that's
It,
powerful,
it's
and nobody I don't know if anyone ever talked to you, but no one talked to me about that. No one would ever talk about this stuff, and I think if someone had, it could have really helped, and counseling was kind of in my family like a bit of a taboo. You don't go to counseling. Like, if
right.
you go to
Right.
counseling, you're broken, you
Uh-huh.
know? So and like you said, life coaches weren't really super popular when I was younger, so that
No.
was kinda new as well. Well, so you started this life coaching program.
Yep.
So how did this transform you?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so it did a 180 in my life, which is a lot of where my method of the 180 method came from. I was a single mom at the time when I had my daughter. I met my now husband who just completely took on that role of dad, and he's just an incredible man. So he and I have the multi-million dollar coffee companies. Let me tell you something. You know this. You have to like not only love your partner, but genuinely like them to work at a high level with them,
Yes,
in
yes,
business and still like each other. So
yeah,
he's just phenomenal. And the fact that like we still love each other and like each other is just so cool. And he completely became father to my daughter. And more importantly, I was able to shed through healing, not
mhm,
just dealing with things. So through the healing, I was able to shed those layers of baggage that I had been
mhm,
carrying for so many years. And I really just stepped into utilizing my voice and sharing this message of healing
yeah,
and being able to truly 180 your life regardless of your background or upbringing
mhm,
or what's happened for you throughout your life.
yeah,
And yeah, I think too, there's this like, I speak all the time too. Like I before would, no, don't ever like the she talks. No, I never would have done that before. So that's another place that it transformed, and getting to see people step into what, God, what I say God has called them into is like huge.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love so you talked about a little bit about the one you're going 180 and a 180 method.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm sure there's a lot more to it that we can't cover today, but maybe you could give us a few little tips of the 180 method or some suggestions about what that is.
Yeah, sure. So here's the thing. We do 360 cycles all the time. So, in traditional self help models, what typically ends up happening is you'll do a whole bunch of work and then end up kind of where you started, which is exactly what a 360 is, right? And I see it all the time where, again, I'm going to call it like more of that traditional self-help, helps for a short period of time. And maybe you think change has happened, but then you found yourself right back again in another cycle or the same cycle. So it just keeps kind of cycling. And you're not really getting to that, again, that what I call the core healing. It's just more of like dealing stuff, dealing with things. With the 180 is we're literally doing a directional shift. You're completely shifting into the right direction, not
Mm,
just any direction, but the right direction that has been paid for you, that you have been designed for. It's very purposeful, but in order to get to that place, it has to be deeper than just, again, more of these traditional type models. So the 180 method is designed for healing rather than dealing, and it's 4 pillars. It's what I call the golden key, which is all about learning this how you are creating your circumstances. Because I often talk to people and ask, like, do you know you're creating your circumstances? And I get a lot of answers like, yes, and then when I ask, okay, how? Typically the responses are all about, well, I don't have control of what happens, but I have control of how I respond to what happens. And yes, there's truth in that, but there's more to it than just the response, because the way you respond to things is still coming from somewhere.
mm,
Then the second pillar is the healing formula. And
mm,
yeah, there's a formula to healing, and the end result to healing just, I don't know that we'll have time to get into it fully today, but the end
mhm,
result to healing is typically what people don't think. It's kind of mind blowing what it actually ends up leading to when you have true healing.
mm,
And then the third pillar is what I call the 360 human pain cycle. So it really is identifying what the cycle is, where it comes from, why you have it, but more importantly, how to get out of it,
mm,
which then leads to the fourth pillar, which is mastering life cycle. And that's where you're just truly mastering your life. And that ing part I like to hone in on, because it's not that, people who go through this program are like, I am never going to have problems again, or I know how I create my circumstances now. I'm never going to create anything challenging. No, we're human. It's going to happen.
yeah,
And that's that ing part of there's up levels. Every time
mm,
you heal, you up level, you play full out more, you engage more, you fulfill your purpose more.
mm,
And when you do that, it reveals another layer that needs healing.
mm,
What I love about the 180 method too is that you don't have to learn another tool for the healing at the new level you're at. It's the same thing it's that you learned through the method, just a new level. That's it.
mm. Yeah, I love that. Well, and it kinda sounds like video games, like we're leveling up as my kids would tell me, like, "We leveled up, mom."
Yeah.
But that's powerful, and, I think today more than ever, our mental health is being talked about more.
Yeah.
As you know, I was involved a lot in sports, and we're seeing a lot of mental health struggles with athletes that have never been brought before that are now coming out. And it's just more of a conversation about things, which I think is so important. I think we would have such better mental health if we could start having the difficult conversations that need to be had. And we talk about, as you know, I work with a lot of women veterans, and they're very tough, of
Yeah.
course. They're tough badasses, but they don't they don't think they need help or want help, right? That's how they've been trained. And that's where we see a big downfall is that. And so I love what you're talking about. I love the healing they talk about, that there can be complete healing, because I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, you're never going to be totally healed." Like it's just always, I've heard that before. As I was reading on your site, you talk about the healing formula, which says 5 steps to put an end to fear, pain, and doubt forever. That's a really powerful forever. Wait, isn't there some movie where they're like forever?
Oh
Um,
my gosh, yeah. I don't know which one, but
I
yeah.
remember, what I'm talking about, the one where I try to remember it forever. But that's powerful to me because fear and pain and doubt are really powerful. I
Yeah.
mean, they can just absolutely control your life. I mean, just fear alone is a very powerful, should we call it emotion
Mhm.
that we deal with. And obviously, I don't want you to tell all your secrets here because
Yeah,
we
no,
want
I'm
people to
happy
come
to
to you.
share. Yeah.
But I'd love to talk about this. I mean, because that's powerful to me when I think about getting rid of fear and pain and doubt. Like you said, we're human, right? So even if we go through the process, we're still going to have that. We're going to have these moments. When people are thinking about this, what are some of these formulas maybe that they can look at?
Yeah. So here's where the healing formula ends and why I'm saying like forever.
Mm,
Um, and let me say it in this way, actually. What you don't own owns you.
mm,
And so true healing leads to ownership. Because when you can own all the ugly, all the shameful, all the pain, all the hardships, there's no more actual pain that comes from
mm,
that. I use the analogy of I have this, I don't know how to get it in the camera. Anyhow, oh, there we go.
mm.
It's a cigarette burn from high school when a boyfriend decided to like put out his cigarette on my arm.
Oh my gosh.
And when it happened, it was a big gaping wound, right? So it was super painful. If I, hit it or smacked it or poked it, it hurt really bad. If someone else hit it, smacked it, or poked it, it hurt really bad. But through healing, layer by layer by layer, using the right things to heal it, it became a scar. So it's still there. I can still show it to you. I can still tell you about it. But if I hit it, smack it, or poke it, no pain. If somebody else hits it, smacks it, or pokes it, there's no pain. And so that's what ownership is. It's like
Mm,
you can have these things that have happened in life that at the time were, wounds and have perhaps progressed throughout your life and been wounded even more so. But when you go through this healing formula and it ends through ownership, it no longer is owning you. And it's like that scar of like it's there, but there's no more pain from it.
mm. Wow, that is a powerful analogy, and so true. As you were saying that, I'm thinking about all my scars, like my physical and just the relatability. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like it's there, and I know it's there, but it doesn't hurt anymore. So powerful. Gosh. Okay, this is why you guys need to go to her site and you need to get hooked up with all this amazing stuff. One last thing I wanted to touch on. Tell me if I'm saying this right. You had soul setting and mind setting. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
And you talked about the whole person, not just a part. And
Yeah.
I find that really interesting too, because I do hear a lot of times, well, we just need to work on this part of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to know more about what is the whole person versus just the part in this.
Such a good question. Okay. So if I could break it down like this, there's two parts to us as a human being. There's the human and then there's the being. That's why we're called human beings, right? But within the human being, there's like 3 layers or 3 components. There's the spirit at the center of us, there's the soul, and then there's the body.
Mm,
So oftentimes it's looked at as like body, mind, soul, or body, mind, spirit. But the mind isn't like its own separate thing. The mind is a part of the soul.
Mm,
And the soul encompasses all of us. So the soul is our mind, our will, our emotions, our personalities, our ambitions, our beliefs, our behaviors, like anything and everything that we think of when we say like, well, this is who I am. This is what makes up who I am. That's all of the soul.
yeah.
So when a lot of, again, I'll use that like traditional self-help models focus on mindset, but then we're forgetting and separating there's all these other components of the soul that connect to the mind. So if you only
Mm,
work on the mind, you're not working on the whole person. And
mm,
so that's why you'll end up 360ing rather
mm,
than having a 180. We got to work on the whole soul set rather
mm.
than just the mindset.
Yeah. That's, and when I think about mindset, I played a lot of sports and they would talk to us about our mindset, our, how we're supposed to work on those things. But as you mentioned the soul, I kind of relate it to like my body, right? Like I could work on my mindset all day long, but if I don't work on my skills, that what my body has to do during that game, then
Yeah.
I'm not going to be ready. And the same thing vice versa, right? I could practice all day long, but if I don't have the right mindset for the game, I'm not going to perform the way. So, from an athlete's perspective, that really makes sense to me about going after the whole area and how important that is. And, thank you so much. I always say when I talk with you amazing women, I could just talk to you for like 3 hours. Like, I'm just gonna lay on my couch over
Holy
here
cow.
and just be like, "Okay, just work on me, just work on me." Because what you're doing is so important, and I really feel like these are conversations that need to be had. And obviously, I focus a lot on women. I'm sure you work with both men and women.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important for women to find safe places like your business where they can really dive into these things and work on that whole part of their body. They have that healing formula and that 180 method. Um, so as we come to the podcast, I always love to ask my guests, if you could go back to your younger self and give your younger self advice, what would you say?
Mm. This is such a good question. Um, you're not wrong.
Powerful. I love it.
I think so much of, especially women, but that's so much of like ingrained within us, and to speak the same language that she speaks. I may not necessarily say that to an adult per se, but she's not going to think in higher ways. She feels like I'm wrong. I did something bad. Like that's typically how we look from a child's perspective. And for her to just get that message of like, you're not wrong. Like there's what you did, how you did it, what you're experiencing, what you've said, not wrong.
I love it. I love it. Now, is there anything coming up that you want our listeners to know about before we go? I know we've been posting your websites and all your socials, but anything new or exciting that you want us to keep an eye out for?
I'm always doing different speaking events and things like that. So there is some stuff coming up in March. I am starting to write my book for the
Ah,
180 method. I've had many people like, when's the book coming out? And I'm like, it's coming. Just give me a moment. So it's finally in the works. It won't be coming out at least for another year because it's just literally getting started. But I did start a YouTube channel where I share a lot of education to just support you with wherever you're at on your path. So you can visit me there at the Baller Coach. And yeah, I'm constantly on the go developing things. So
yeah. This is awesome. Amazing. Well, make sure you guys check out the website. Obviously, if you're driving or listening right now, you can come back and find all of those links that we put in there. And also, just a friendly reminder, we have our next Lead and Empower Her She Talks coming up on March 11th in Houston. So if you're in the neighborhood, I know Texas is huge. People will tell me like I'm 6 hours out. So if you're within a couple hour range, I've been told by Texans that a couple hours is an acceptable driving. We'd love for you guys to stop by. All our our ticket sales go to support women veterans. And we have another amazing lineup. So you can go to leadempowerher.com to find that out. Thank you so much for coming on the show. For those of you who don't know, we've had to reschedule like 5 times because of our crazy, insane schedules. And we got to make it work. And
happen.
The final word is we're just making it through February. We're making it through February. So as I always say, live, love, laugh, and always be your authentic self.